Hey, Feisty friends, Feisty CEO Sarah here. And if you are not yet coming to Feisty Fest this September, I need you to hear me out just for 60 seconds. Feisty Fest is the event that we built for you, our beloved Feisty audience. It is taking place September 18th to 20th in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, close to major airports. So here's how Feisty Fest started. We asked ourselves, what would an event look like if women were actually the default? Not an afterthought, not a modified version of something built for men, actually genuinely designed for us. It's not a training camp, it's not a race, it's not a conference. It's a little bit of all three wrapped into one incredible weekend where you get to challenge yourself to do new things, learn about women's specific physiology, nutrition advice, and skills for your mental game, and be completely surrounded by your people. 3 days where you get to ride gorgeous Pennsylvania gravel, try the velodrome, we have track bikes you can try, lift heavy, run trails, or play a game of pickleball. And you can do the things you love and learn something new. And in between bouts of exercise, you can sit with some of the most incredible experts in women's health and performance, the ones who are talking about the stuff that actually matters to women. Celine Yeager, Kate Verano, Cassie Neiman, Molly Herford, and more. This is the room you've been looking for. And trust me, you will leave a different person. Head to feisty.co to grab your ticket. And if you're one of the first 100, you get a free Feisty crewneck sweatshirt, including art by the amazing Lisa Congdon. They are going fast, so don't wait. Go to feisty.co right now. See you in September.
All right, Feisties, welcome back. We're welcoming Katie Zaferis back from her vacation. I'm Kelly O'Mara, your co-host. And today we are continuing our trend of getting expert advice from expert coaches. And we have renowned, amazing strength coach Erin Carson joining us. Welcome, Erin.
Thank you. I'm excited to be part of this chat.
I feel like we're just prepping people for racing because next week reminder to everyone, we will be off next week kind of with a vacation, 4th of July, and we'll be re-airing our mental tips episode. So people have strength tips, mental tips, all kinds of tips. But Erin, I told you the first question I was going to ask you, since I know you watch so many races, you have so many athletes, you're very up on what has been the most interesting, most exciting race to you so far this year?
Well, that's easy because I've only been physically at one race, and that was amazing. I got to go with Taylor to Ironman Texas. And I think as a team, we just kind of all decided that it's really important that someone's there to support. Ironman is hard. A triathlon is hard in general, and it's just good to have a crew in case things go wrong or to celebrate when things go right. So Texas to me was pretty cool. And I was going to stay kind of off campus at a cheap hotel. And I just was like, screw it. I just want to stay where the action is. So I stayed at the athlete hotel. Their room came open at the last minute and got to meet Solveig, and I got to meet Christian and hang out with Rudy a little bit, who I still work with. And, it's just such an exciting environment. And then of course on race day, it was just a really great day for so many people. And of course it was a lot of challenging moments for a lot of people too, because Ironman is so hard, but it was incredible to be there. And, Taylor came second, but I think she used the word thrilled. And that made me so happy because I think that we all need to remember that we do have a personal podium. It doesn't always mean you have to win. Winning is fun and great, especially for champion mindset people. But to see her so pleased with how she executed the day and get to be part of that was really, really special for me and super stoked for her. But also to see Solveig is in person, like she's incredible. She's so strong and so happy and so kind and open. And that was really, that made it really special as well. So
what does, because I was sort of at Western States last week, and obviously crew there is very involved, right? What does like being the on the ground crew for an Ironman entail? Like, what do you do?
Do you want all the dirty details?
No, I'm just curious.
It's for me, it's just trying to make everything as easy as possible. I mean, whether I'm a strength coach or whether I'm a coach, you wear that hat as caring deeply for the people that trust you with what you do for them. So for me, it's like, okay, like the night before the race, I'm like, how can I keep it light and how can I make Taylor comfortable? And she looked at me and she said, I think I'd like to get a haircut. And I was like, what? Like it's at 4 o'clock the night before Ironman Texas. I was like, most women schedule their haircuts like 6 weeks in advance with only one person. And we had a little drive over to Great Clips where she got her first haircut since Kona. And it was just like, okay, that's amazing.
Oh my God, I
So
feel so
for
much better.
me,
I did this at
yeah.
Kona this past fall. In October, I was like, I have to get my hair cut like the night before Kona, and I went to Supercuts, and now I feel like
Yeah,
me and
it's a
Taylor.
thing.
Yes.
Yep, just like this. And so we did that, and then we just went back to the same place where we went the night before for dinner because it was simple and just to kind of keep things light, but also to give her some space and some privacy to just kind of call the boyfriend or the parents or whoever she wants to talk to, and just try to, you know, she has a responsibility, or any athlete that is high level has a responsibility to be present for the fans or for the kids and that come up to you, and she does that really, really well. But I do think that triathletes in general or runners, ultra runners, they value their alone time and their privacy as well. So I try to run a little bit of interference if I can. Cut things when they need to be cut and get her the heck out of there. And then race morning, just be there with all the positive vibes and as many accurate splits as I can. No pressure. If you're on Taylor's team, you better be accurate. It's like, so yeah, yeah, that's kind of my jam, is to keep things with a big hug when needed, So that's what I love coaching for that.
I love listening to you like talk through that because it's so invaluable as like the people who are there supporting the athletes. And I think sometimes like the way you're supporting her is just so it's not high performance, right? Like it's just being there for another human in whatever capacity they need to make things easier. And like you said, I think just having someone be positive and light and be adaptable to each like person that you're there with. I don't know. It just made me uh, think a lot about my experiences, but I loved hearing it from you.
That's why we love coaching. That's why I know you're an amazing coach, and why USA Triathlon was smart to bring you on. So.
What other? That's the only race you got to go into in person so far. What other races are you planning to be at this year? I feel like you pop up at races.
Yeah, I like to pop up. I love what you guys do. Like, I just like being there. I think every single athlete is amazing. I love it when I have a little skin in the game, like whether somebody's racing that I have a deeper level of involvement, and I can really see the work that we do kind of put into play. That's really satisfying for me. It also lets me see other athletes where there's maybe opportunities, and I play this little game in my head. If I was their strength coach, this is what I would do, and this is what so I'll definitely be in Kona, because I love that race and kind of I've been going to that race since even before I knew Rinny. So I love that race, and I have a lot of history there and a lot of, I just have I've never done it. I'm never going to do it, but I have so much mad respect for everybody that does it. I'd love to go to T100 Vancouver, but I don't think that's really decided yet. I may go just because I'm Canadian and I love Vancouver, and go see my family and go support everybody. We'll see. That start list, I think, is still pretty moving around. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think
I've got a few other athletes that might show up there too.
Yeah.
How many,
Yeah.
this might be an impossible number, but like how many athletes, I feel like you have like a lot of touch points with a lot of different athletes, like just following social media and the athletes' social media. How many athletes do you have right now in like the triathlon community?
Hard to say, because I really have layers. I'm really, my Mobility Monday, anybody and everybody can do that.
Oh, cool.
It's free. Like, just show up on YouTube, and I'm there every Monday. I've been there for almost 400 Mondays, which I'm super proud of. It's like
Wow.
5 years of mobility in YouTube. But it's funny when people just will pop up and they'll be like, "Hey, Erin, the EC Fit Mobility Monday," and I guess I get to count them a little bit as somebody I get to help. And then I have, people that I see in person, and my work, not only with my in-person pros, which currently in Boulder, I have Taylor and Rudy. And then I have Zoom pros, Jason Pohl, still work with Jason, Imogen Simmons. But a lot of my time now, and I'm super excited about this community, is working with Team Solomon, the global team, both the road and the ultra team. And we're building out triathlon as well with Casper. I don't work with Casper, but if I ever get the chance, that would be incredible. So Solomon is my first really kind of corporate gig that I'm really enjoying that. Yeah. So Courtney,
word is,
I work with Courtney.
I was like, oh, you do with Courtney. I was going to say, word is Solomon's coming in big in triathlon. I mean, obviously you can already see it with Casper and Marjolaine, but I think they're going to do more. So.
Yeah, they're coming for the world, and they listen. They're, it's a wonderful team to be part of for sure.
That's awesome. For people who don't know, I feel like we just glossed over and we'll get into it. But Erin is an expert strength and mobility coach. She's worked kind of, as we hinted, with so many pros. And we are going to ask her a ton of strength training questions to answer all your strength. But first, we're going to take a break. And then we come back, we're going to talk about all of the big news this last week.
Orca has been a longtime partner of Feisty Triathlon, and we're always excited to see them constantly innovating to create the best wetsuits on the market. I have swam in many wetsuits over the years, and my Orca wetsuit is by far my favorite. I especially love the V-Fit technology that's included in all of Orca's women's wetsuits. Their wetsuits are specifically designed for the female body, and you'll notice the difference in fit, performance, and comfort when you try it out for yourself. Orca wetsuits are divided into 2 categories, and within each category, there are 3 different suits with different characteristics and buoyancy levels. So whether you're looking for maximum buoyancy or maximum shoulder mobility or a mix of the two, Orca has a suit for you. And there's a couple different options depending on your budget. As always, Orca is made by triathletes for triathletes. So get ready for race season with an Orca wetsuit and use the code FEISTY15 for 15% off at the link in our show notes. That's FEISTY15 for 15% off at the link in our show notes.
Triathletes, we love our gear. But if you're like me, you don't want to spend that much time trying to make your gear work. You just want it to be there when you're ready to train. That's what I love about my Wahoo Element Roam. It's a bike computer that just syncs with my phone, and my rides are automatically there. I can upload routes, and it gives me directions, telling me when a turn is coming up, but without overwhelming maps and alerts. Perfect for long summer bike rides. You can set it to show however many data fields you want, go nuts, or keep it simple, and you can have different screens for different profiles if you want maps, upcoming segments, lap splits. Wahoo also has 3 different levels of bike computer depending on what you're looking for. The Element Bolt is their smallest and lightest bike computer. The Element Roam, which is my favorite, has been updated with more detailed maps and a touchscreen, along with buttons. And then the Element Ace is their biggest and most powerful bike computer with the longest battery life. You can check out all of Wahoo's bike computers at the link in the show notes and get ready for some big ride adventures. All right, there was so much news last week, guys. We're not going to touch on it all, but I want to talk about this massive heat dome in Europe, and they had to cancel Ironman France and 70.3 in Nice, and they shortened Frankfurt. They shortened Ironman Frankfurt to let me get this right, 125-kilometer bike and a half marathon run, which amounted to like 5 hours, under 5 hours for the front guys. And I have no idea about the back. Like, I'm not going to venture on right decision, wrong decision, because I don't know about the logistics. That's a race director decision. But I wanted to talk about, like, what should athletes do in these situations? Because obviously you get to that day and it's 100 degrees, or it's, whatever the heat index. What was the word you told me about, Katie, in World Triathlon? They have black flag days.
Yes, but now I can't think of it, but yeah.
Yeah. That's like really bad. So what do you do on those days when you get in that situation and either your race gets shortened or it gets changed, or you're going to have to do it anyway, but how do you deal with the heat?
I mean, from the athlete side of things, I think just being prepared for it, having heat training under your belt, whether that's like passive, active. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do heat training, and finding kind of the right way to do it with. I mean, if you can work with someone in expertise, like, that's incredible. And I would probably go that route. Or if you don't have anybody, obviously there's a lot of information just on the web to find, and finding like medical research, I would say, that like validates what you're looking for. I I think like for us also just respecting that it's different. In terms of like when you're training in the heat or doing heat prep. I mean, even today, so we're in Cary, North Carolina. It's like 93 degrees right now and humid as well. And we had a session today for the athletes, and they were doing a bike session as a group ride and then running off the bike. And we had something planned, but even before they got on the bike, I said, it's really hot today. Like, we don't know how the group ride is going to be ridden because that's an uncontrollable part of like our training that we do. So like when it comes to the runoff, we might make modifications, whether that's shortening it, whether that's changing the paces, whether that's having more rest. And I just gave them a heads up that we would be considering those. And we did. We had to modify what we planned to do because you could tell like it was too much for the conditions. So I think being able to be adaptable and even like focusing, kind of being preemptive with your planning of like both hydration and nutrition and what you need while actually en route. So you know where you can stop for water fill-ups, you know where you can
like in training, sure.
Do yeah. Sorry. And I guess, are you speaking of racing particularly?
Yeah. I mean, you're right. In training, you definitely have to like be careful not to overdo. I think when people heat acclimatize, you do have to be careful that you don't acclimatize. When you do the like super hot sessions, it does take more out of you, right? Like you have to be careful not to overdo it, to stay fueled, stay hydrated. But yeah, I was thinking about racing too. Like, what do you do once we've all been in that situation, right? You get to the race and you're like, oh no. You look at the forecast and you're like, oh no. And then at that point, it's too late to go back and wish you had heat acclimatized. Any strategies? What would you tell your athletes, Erin, about if they got themselves on that start line?
You know, to be honest, my role isn't usually that. It's usually the sport coach that's going to take the lead there. So it's like a Julie Dibbins or a Dan Lorang or a Katie Zafaris or somebody who's a little more frontline. You know, I guess my perspective would come more as an age group racer. You know, the pros are just in a different category. They have maybe a different layer of perspective. They're doing it for their job. Age groupers, I can feel the discomfort and the disappointment of a race getting canceled. But I think the perspective of why are we doing it in the first place? You know, you don't want to risk your health. And, you know, seeing athletes go down on race day who have the most support of anyone in the world and still can succumb to the heat. It's a real reality check. You know, is your brain worth it? Is your heart worth it? And so although I understand everybody in Nice, I believe that race wasn't canceled by Ironman. It was canceled by Nice, the city, the county or whatever it is in France, because of resources. And when you're talking about resources, you're talking about serious concerns. And then you just have faith that you're in business with an organization that's going to take care of you. And, you know, hopefully the financial losses aren't so great, but, you know, the emotional disappointment, we are athletes and we are built to be resilient and move on to the next thing and be mentally strong and not be victims and, you know, don't put ourselves in positions that are going to put us in harm's way or other people in harm's way. So super disappointing. Great decision up in Frankfurt to shorten the race because that seems to have gone really well. And I think in the future we learn from things like that. And yeah, and with the climate changing so much, I mean, we're 2 weeks out from Hard Rock 100 right now here in Colorado, and we have fires everywhere. And, you know, so we're 2 weeks out from a major race that might not happen. And it's super disappointing and sad to think about that. But at the same time, you don't want athletes out on the course when a fire comes through. That doesn't go well. So we have to be prepared for those kind of things, and we have to be okay with them a little bit.
For sure. I think, sorry, I was thinking about the athletes in Frankfurt, Katie, and I think there were at least a few who were in Hamburg and had the kind of like flats because people sabotaged the bike or threw stuff out. And then they went to Frankfurt and they had a shortened race. And you're like, oh no. I know that Felix, who runs Challenge Roth, has offered a few of those athletes to come to Roth now and get another chance. So that's really nice. Sorry, that's what I was
and
thinking.
like,
Katie, go ahead.
well, and I was just thinking about like if you're in a race when it's hot, like take the water on course, have a preemptive plan, even if it's last minute, even if you haven't done heat prep, like the night before, you know it's going to be hot, like do something. I think there's the data out on like what you can do right before in terms of cooling or even within the race might be a little bit mixed. However, I do think mentally as an athlete, I know having like a cooler with like ice and washcloths in it for like prior to the race or like frozen like freezing things, but also depending on how hot it is, don't freeze both. Water bottles just in case one doesn't thaw. You want to be able to get some type of hydration and just like being okay with slowing down. I mean, my husband Tommy, he was at a race in Dallas. This was in like 2013 or 2014, and he had a heat stroke and 2 seizures. And like basically his brain like turned off somewhere and like went on autopilot basically, and he hit the finish line and he just like he was in a bad shape, and that's not worth it, right? Like, and not every athlete knows that that's coming on, but if like even if you're a bystander and you see something wonky going on in a really hot race, or you see someone just, I know it's hard like pulling someone off a course, but I do think that's something that people should really reflect on as these races are getting hotter, no matter whether they're in the race or on the side. Like, you don't have to be a champion. Like, if it might be a smarter move just to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah,
think
I think there's been a lot of good banter about DNF isn't a failure. It's just that you chose not to finish. And I've always kind of pushed back on those people that are like death before DNF. And I'm just like, what are you even thinking? Like, who says that? And there are people that still believe that. And I don't think it's quitting. I think sometimes it's a really smart decision. So yeah, I don't think there's any shame in that. You prepared. I mean, the race is won. The race is the celebration. The race is won, and it's a victory when you get to toe the line, you know, and the rest of it is the celebration, I think.
Yeah, there's always another race. There's not always another body.
Yeah. There's always another race. Which, yes. So speaking of, a number of athletes are going to then switch over to Roth this weekend, or I feel like there are new announcements every day of the next new person racing Roth. Obviously, the big news this week was Lucy Charles Barkley. And then they just announced Magnus Ditlev. I feel like it's just like one day after another. So Roth is this upcoming weekend, and I'm mentioning this particularly because we will have a feisty reporter on the ground there. So you can follow on our Instagram. She'll be posting some interviews, some bits from the race. So, you know, tune in. And you can also watch on YouTube, but I know it's overnight for us here. Here's my question for you all. We now have Kat and Lucy going at it, and obviously like Carolyn and Daisy and Fenella. Are we going to see a sub 8? Just, do you think it's going to happen?
I think the conditions are going to be hard.
It's
for
hot.
that.
Yeah, it's going to be hot. Yeah.
I took a look at that, actually. It's going to be less than 80.
Is
it? Well, there you go.
I can double check that, but because I was like, I know we're going to talk about Roth. Weather this weekend in Roth, Germany. And it says,
give it to us.
This weekend, you can expect pleasant, warm weather with a mix of sun and clouds. Temperatures peaking near 79 degrees.
Okay.
Perfect.
I mean, you might, I don't think it's set up with the field that's going to go sub 8.
You don't think there's like...
What are we missing? What are we missing?
Laura Phillip? No.
I don't think you're wrong. I actually think Lucy's still coming back. She had a great race in Lanzarote. She's still building fitness. I think both of those athletes, Kat and Lucy, care more about Kona than they do about Roth, sub 8. And I think this is going to be a really, really big Kona year because of the men and women coming back together on the island. And so I think they're going to see a good battle, but I don't think, I mean, they're both capable, I think. There's probably 4 athletes on the planet that are capable of it, but I don't know if it's worth it for them this year.
Do you think, like, I haven't really followed, I guess, as in-depthly for like this, like Ironman athletes, when they're doing these races, like, are people more strategic racing these Ironmans? Because we talk about like, will UEC sub 8, but would they be like, whoever's in front, be like managing their energy? Like in world triathlon racing, you're going to go full gas every race you do. But I feel like, do you see the strategy happen coming in closer to Kona that athletes might not race as to the top level that they could?
I think a champion is always going to try to win because winning is really important. But at the same time, they're kind of exploring where they're at. And sometimes it's just about learning. It's like Taylor's race in Texas. It was very clear for her. Her goal was to get her Kona slot and try a few different things on the day because it's really a long equation, an Ironman. And I think when you look at the obvious characters would be Kat and Lucy. I think Lucy's fitness is still coming up and she's going to be fitter in 3 months than she is today. And because she does have that little bit of history of injuries, it wouldn't be worth walking the line unless, and this is where I think it'd be really fun for Roth or Ironman or anybody, like show us the money, like tell us what's the incentive. Like
this is why you get records in Roth because they pay for records.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be interesting to say like, okay, Lucy and Kat, if you guys, it's $500,000 if you can go sub-8, like, or is there $500,000 out there that's just dangling for the first female to go sub-8? And it would be fun for the fans to kind of know that because it might get more engaged. But for Kat to do it, she swim is obviously getting better and better. She's going to have to risk the run to go even harder on the bike. And then she's running really, really well. And then Lucy just, I just think Lucy cares more about Kona.
It also changes the dynamics.
Especially late. Yeah.
I was like, to your point about missing Laura, it changes the dynamics because Lucy will race off the front, whereas Laura and Kat would have been kind of head to head and pushing each other the whole time. And so it'll be a very different style of race. So
yeah, that second pack has always proven to be a game changer. Like when you look at Immo and Kat and how they can chase Taylor and work together. That's never easy to watch. But
I was
fun
laughing
at the same time.
The fun. I was laughing in my head, and like I know that Kat knew about Laura pulling out and knew Lucy coming in before the rest of us. Like I know they all talk to each other, but in my head I was like, that's such a person who's on the biggest emotional roller coaster this week has to be Kat, right? You're like, oh no, there goes like my person I was going to race with, and then you're like, oh okay, and then oh Lucy's coming, right? It's like up and down. Whew. I was like, man, but. I mean, she's a very level-headed person. Yeah.
I was going to say, hopefully she's taking Lucy's advice, which I just saw like posted on Instagram where it was like, you're not comparing yourself to others. You're just showing up.
Yeah. I mean, she's a very
as yourself,
level-headed, rational person. But I was like, man, that's got to be a lot. So, well, that'll be an exciting race this weekend. And then I feel like we're back into the World Triathlon schedule. Katie, there was a big World Cup this past weekend, which I know we're kind of glossing over. I was very confused. There were like semifinals and finals and rounds.
Oh, yeah.
And it was very confusing.
Well, Erin's got Taylor in it. Tizzy is a historic race for World Triathlon. Like, it is a World Cup, but it is like the coolest town in Hungary that supports triathlon and like having the semifinals, finals. Yeah, and Taylor was second. Fanny Zelaya was first, who she's young, and it is really cool to see her like picking up speed. I mean, she started with Super Tri and now like just continuing to climb on the world stage, which is pretty neat. And I feel bad because I'm blanking, but I think there was an Australian who was third that I actually hadn't heard her name before. So that's pretty awesome for her, getting on what I would assume is her first World Cup podium.
Now, why did they do some races with these semifinals and finals? Do you know? Is it just to make it more exciting? I
don't know if Tizzy is based on just the body of water that they do it in. It's so small. And it's also at least it was one of the most contact races I've ever been a part of. I actually remember someone like grabbing onto like my leg for so long that I took my hand and like I bite my nails so they're not very sharp, but like tried to dig my nails into their hand to get them off of me. I was like,
oh my God.
But I don't know if it's like that still. We'd have to ask Taylor.
We would, yeah. Any other news I'm missing? I know it's kind of it's a weird time of year, right? Everybody's going on vacations, taking breaks. The other big news last week was, of course, that Nice 70.3 Worlds will not be happening in 2028. But I think I was about to say I think we all sort of saw that coming, but
You did. No, I'm just
maybe we didn't. After the mayor made all those announcements. So we'll have to wait and see. We could speculate wildly, but we're not going to about where it will be instead. All right.
In the
US. I know. That's what I was thinking, actually. I was like, what if they just pick one of the other cities that was going to be in the US?
Yeah, because it's usually in the fall, right?
Yeah.
So it's an interesting, like, where would you go? Because remember, we used to have Muskoka up in Ontario or even in Canada. There's some Canadian races that would probably be pretty fun world championship destinations.
That's just, who knows? Who knows? I don't think anyone actually really has super big rumors yet, but that's okay. All right, we are going to take another quick break, and then we are going to talk all about Erin and ask her our questions. Feisties, if you're not sure which supplements to take, I get it. The space can be confusing. But there are actually a few supplements that have a lot of research and support to back up their use and benefits. And one of those is creatine. That's why you've probably been hearing a lot about creatine lately, because the benefits are real. Creatine supplementation can support muscle recovery and lean muscle growth, and even improve brain health and cognitive performance. But it's also made the category very crowded. How do you know which one to take? That's where Momentus's signature spec creatine comes in. It sets a new standard for creatine purity, manufactured in a pharmaceutical facility and going through a 6-stage testing process with multiple independent agencies, ensures that you're getting the highest quality creatine. And then the ultrafine powder mixes effortlessly with no clumping, so you can drink it after workouts or before bed, whatever you need to help you do what you already do, but better. You can try Momentus Signature Spec Creatine for 35% off your first order with the code FEISTYTRY. That's FEISTY TRY, TRI, at livemomentus.com.
Feisties, have you ever wished there was a festival built entirely around active women where sport, learning, adventure and community are all rolled into one super fun weekend? If so, we have the perfect event for you. Feisty Fest is happening from September 18th to 20th in Pennsylvania. Fancy trying something new? Maybe give track cycling or pickleball a go. Do you love what you're already doing? Why not join the group runs, bike rides, swimming sessions, mountain biking or strength workouts? You choose what you want to do and build your own perfect workout weekend in great company. Hear from expert coaches, athletes and specialists sharing insights specifically for female athletes, helping you to train smarter, perform better and stay healthy for the long haul. Whether you're chasing a new goal, making a comeback or simply want to spend time with women who understand your passion for sport, you'll find your people at Feisty Fest. And who knows, your next training buddy, race partner or feisty bestie could be waiting there for you. Head to feisty.co to grab your ticket today. The link is in the show notes. Feisty Fest. Move, learn, connect. Your weekend adventure starts here.
All right, Erin, this is sort of like an easy one, but I actually, before we jumped into what exercises should triathletes do, I want to ask you, how did you get started being a strength coach for triathletes? Like, I know you started working with Rinny and Tim over a decade ago, 2012-ish, but how did that kind of, and then went from there, but how did that kind of come about?
Well, it kind of starts that I live in Boulder, and that's where all the famous triathletes live.
Right.
And then I worked at and subsequently owned Rally Sport. And the first triathlete that I really saw that really made me think about that was Dave Scott. And Dave, I've always been a strength coach. So I was a strength coach coming out of college. I coached college women's basketball, and we didn't always get a strength coach if we were the women's basketball team. So I was the strength coach for the women's basketball team. So I always loved and understood how strength could affect or make an impact in a skill sport. or a sport. And it kind of bothered me that when I was playing, we had the football coach. And I'm like, why are we training like football players? This makes no sense. And so I just was at this really interesting time of life when a lot of development, sports specific strength training was coming into the chat. And, I watched Dave really get under load and get strong and win a lot of Ironmans. And he was the only one that was doing it. The age groupers weren't doing it. And I was like, this is really super smart. And then the first professional athlete that really started chatting with me, or I wanted to chat with, it was Tim O'Donnell. So Tim came and chatted with me, and I was kind of like, here's what I think. I think we need to get your pelvis in line and in position. We need to make sure that your shoulders are open because you're a swimmer and swim biker. And, T.O. was a swim biker who became a very good runner. After 2 weeks of training with me, and he felt better right away. We opened his hips up. We had him moving better. That's when Rinny sat down and wanted to ask some questions and see if it was maybe going to work for her. And she was pretty clear that her genetics were such that she put on muscle really fast. And that was her biggest worry, was she didn't want to carry a lot of muscle. And that's not really my jam. I'm pretty aware if somebody's body type is prone to building muscle. So we have to be careful of that. But Rinny felt really good doing what we were doing as well. So I still train them. They're retired. I still see them twice a week. Now I'm like, okay, no dad bods. We got to keep T.O. in shape. Rinny's got a BQ going for next year. So she's running a lot, and a full-time mom, trained her through all the kids. But yeah, I think their success was when people started chatting about like, what are you guys doing? Because it was kind of a window of time when it was new. And so I started working with Carrot Goucher, and she, had so many hamstring issues and different things that we were able to deal with in a really positive way. And then it just kind of went from there. But T.O. and Rinny are the anchor story for sure. Yeah.
I was totally going to build up to this, but as you were saying that, as you were developing this, like, well, we shouldn't do what the football players are doing. Let's do sport specific. What does that mean? What are some sport specific strength things for triathletes?
I think you have to work backwards. Like where is the tightness? Where are the problems? And then where are the opportunities? Being somebody that works, I work a lot with triathletes, and I unwind their hips and their thoracic spine every single session because of the bicycle. And the bicycle is kind of the X factor. Running is so much easier. Like anybody that got an injury or a saddle sore or something couldn't ride the bike for 2 weeks, and all of a sudden they're like, wow, I am a damn good runner. But the bike it really puts the body into a smaller position. And so undoing tightness, creating strength to find balance in the joint, so that a joint can actually perform the way it's supposed to with freedom. That's kind of where it begins. And then you just, over time, you have to create the kind of journey that people want to do that doesn't make them sore. Like that's a big thing. Coaches hate it if the strength coach overimposes on the athletes. And if the athletes are sore, they're not happy, coaches aren't happy, and you're going to lose your job pretty quickly. So
it's so funny because like when I knew I needed strength, but I was like so nervous to find a strength coach like partway through, basically after like Rio, I guess it was in like 2016. And I was like, when I would like interview strength coaches, it was like, I want to be stronger, but it can affect my swimming, cycling, and running in an adverse way. So like that just like really like really hits home.
It comes home, doesn't it? Yeah. You get fired really fast if it does. And so you have to ease your way into it. And that's true of anything. It would be really easy if it was a completely clear correlation that if you can deadlift this, you can push that many watts per kilogram. It doesn't work that way. So, there's people out there putting their systems and their skeletal systems and their nervous systems at risk, thinking it's going to transfer to the sport, and it doesn't transfer to the sport. So the stronger you are, the faster you aren't. It's unfortunate, but
why
true.
How is like, why doesn't it transfer to the sport? What are they doing wrong? But I'm sure that's complicated.
It's complicated because it's just the emphasis is on performance. The emphasis is on, if it's running you need to get better at to elevate you to where you want to go, then you need to create space for running. And you can't energy rob. You can't take the energy from the athlete's ability to train. So any time you're in the gym over an hour, your energy systems are being heavily used. You know, I used to watch Justin and Jeannie Metzler before they started working with me. They'd be in the gym literally for an hour and a half. And they were both training 20 to 30 hours a week on swim, bike, run. And I'm like, this needs to stop. Like, so we got them to 30 to 40 minutes, and performance starts to go up. If the ultimate goal is performance, then the strength routine has to match that. And I know a lot of your audience aren't professional athletes. We're in different decades of life, and this story shifts based on the decade.
Well, and I think like part of that is, so what do you find to be like a sweet spot with strength training? And also like kind of a part of that is, so when I was an athlete, I would try to do like 2 by 30 to 45 minute strength sessions with my strength coach. So, but now as a mom, I'm like, I don't even know where to fit this in. And I mean, I got to do all the training, but like, is there a benefit of like 10 minutes a day, or is it better to be chunked? And this is a little bit, I'm getting personal right now.
This is a personal question.
No,
but
if you have it, everybody has that question. Like it's really important from my perspective. And I used to own a gym. I used to think everyone should go to the gym, but I think everyone should have some kettlebells at home. I think people should have some Vipers at home. I'm not a big band person, but I do see their usefulness. It's typically not enough stimulus to make a big difference. So it might not be worth your time to do a bunch of bands all the time, like lightweights.
And could you say what Vipers are?
Yeah, it's a weighted tube. It's one of my favorite tools. So it's a viper.com if anybody wants to check it out. It was developed not only as a tool, but also a system of training, which is called loaded movement training. So when you think about moving something quickly, and something that weighs 4K, if it starts moving quickly, it can actually be read by your body to be 15K because you were decelerating load. So loaded movement training is a big part of the strategy I use with athletes. So we're not just trying to get more and more and more weight. Speed is a variable. The ability to stabilize and isometrically hold a position is a variable. But the Viper is one of my favorite tools, and so I use it with pretty much everybody. It's now available globally. The shipping is typically more expensive than the tool because it weighs a little bit, but a nice little set of kettlebells, so you can single arm deadlift, so you can straight leg deadlift, so you can, I'm a big deadlifter. I do value all the very traditional strength building moves, but I also have this whole spectrum of non-traditional things. And, Katie, I would look at your history as an athlete, and I would say, you're going to be just fine. Like, let those kids get into full-time school. And when your schedule starts to give yourself some time, you can build in your 20 minutes. You're not going to be at a deficit at all. Like, there's so many people that are just really good athletes. They have great genetics, and they don't need 3 times a week, 45 minutes. Like 2 times a week for 15 minutes it puts you in a good mood. There's such a good hormonal benefit when you do it the way that you should do it for yourself. It shouldn't be a grind. It should be something you look forward to, but it should be simple, and it should be very accessible and not a big neural demand of like, oh, I need to follow a video, or all I do this list. What is that? Like, things can be so fancy and complicated and overwhelming. And I'm kind of from the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid. Like the fatigue of a mom or a dad who's got a full-time job and trying to train and try to race, to have a complicated strength program is not good. Like, in my opinion, that's a mistake. It should be very accessible, easy to just go do five things.
What are those 5 things? No, I was going to say, so for our regular listeners, they like obviously their questions are how often, how long, how heavy. And it sounds like we're at like 2 to 3 times a week is great. 30 minutes is great. If you can do 10, that's great. And then when you say like keep it simple, are we talking about, like, squats, deadlifts, lunges, or are we talking about other functional movements?
For me, I love your audience. I have always, and I've watched you guys grow into such an important part of so many people's lives that I was kind of hoping we would have this chat. I know that Dr. Stacy Sims has had a role in all of our lives in the last 6 years. It has been really frustrating for me to watch people hurt themselves trying to lift so much heavy shit. That it shouldn't be that way. Is there a hormonal benefit and upside to lifting heavy stuff for women who are perimenopausal and menopausal? Yes. Does that mean you have to lift heavy all year long? I would challenge that as an absolute no. There is just a very big concept in all kinds of training called periodization, and your program should be periodized, which means like if we just take a quarter by quarter, 12 weeks, 3-month periods, and 4 weeks strength endurance, 4 weeks of muscle hypertrophy where we're trying to build a muscle size, and then maybe 4 weeks of heavy shit, and then go back to the beginning and just cycle through that so that you're not always giving your body the stress load that will put you at risk, especially when sleep comes into the equation and recovery, because so many of these women over 40 are like, well, I'm not sleeping. Well, if you're not sleeping, should you really be training to the fullest capacity that you think you can, because you're not recovering? So lifting heavy stuff is important to the system, but not if you don't have strategies to figure out how to sleep well, or how to eat well, or how to go to bed on time and understand circadian rhythms. Like, all of these things need to be part of the spectrum of health. Typically, the healthiest athletes will have the best experiences. They'll have the best training experiences. They'll have the best racing experiences. So health has to always come first over trying to set a PB on a back squat. Like, to me, that is my worst nightmare. The only athlete that I have that back squats is Rinny, and it's only because she grew up back squatting in the Australian Institute of Sport, and she's very good at it. It doesn't put her in a forward head position. Tim has never back squatted, Tim O'Donnell. He will front squat, he will goblet squat, he'll overhead squat, we'll do all kinds of squats, but not back squat. Back squat is vertically loading the spine. I'll use the D word, it's dangerous, especially for somebody who rides a bicycle, because they typically are a little bit stuck in their pelvis. So it is difficult to get into a deep position with load on your back. It's easy to load your back and with a weight that you can't handle, but because your skeleton is holding it up, you're standing there shaking. Like, why would anyone over 20 do that? Like, it's just risky. Why risk your back?
Those machines that also like keep the squat
Smith
bar
machines.
Yeah, they're terrible, right? They're like supposed to be safer, but then you like can't do it, and you're like overextending your back, and you're like, anyway. Don't use those.
They're great
as a
for
general
calf
rule.
raises, but as somebody who used to own a gym, it's like an incredible waste of space. We used to use them for inverted pull-ups. That was really, really nice. But a back squat using a Smith machine in a performance world, like I will acknowledge there's worlds where that's a great exercise. But if you're a triathlete or a runner or somebody who really cares about moving really well, like, I love watching athletes run backwards and change direction and play Frisbee, and that they have mobility. They're relaxed. Like, watching World Cup soccer right now is so fun. These are the most incredible athletes in the world. We're talking about taking linear athletes and try to get them, be able to dance and relax and move better. That's why mobility is kind of my jam. It's like, if you're not moving well, we're not going to load you that heavy because you're going to get stiff and you're going to get stuck, and you're already a little bit stuck in your bike for 5 hours on aero. I like athleticism and movement.
Well, and like you're kind of giving examples of like typical triathlete challenges with like being on the bike. So do you have like some favorite movements or like strength exercises for somebody who's like, oh, I just want to like start doing something but don't really know what? And I think there is like, no matter what movement you're doing in strengthening, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like you might want to start with somebody who knows what they're doing to explain it to you. But like, granted, if people know like RDLs or what you were saying before, because now I can't think of the word.
Deadlifts,
Deadlift,
goblet squats.
My favorite position to put somebody in is in a half kneeling 90-90 position. So like if you were getting your soccer photo taken when you're in 6th grade, so you go down on one knee and then take a dowel, like a broom handle, and put it over your head. Stack your ears over your shoulders over your hips, and just stand up from that 90-90 position with your arms overhead, because that exposes thoracic tightness. So Katie, it's a great thing to do with your young triathletes. As soon as they put their hands over their head with a dowel, you want to see the position of their head and their ears, and do their ears go in front of their shoulders? And then the cue would be chin into throat, and pull your head back over your shoulders, and your arms should all just disappear. Like everything should be just so beautifully linear. And then you can just rotate side to side, and it's going to feel good to them because they all have tight lats because they swim so much, right? So you get out of the water with tight lats, and then you get on a bicycle that puts you into shoulder internal rotation, and lats attach on the front side of the shoulder. So they are internal rotators as well. So we want to get into external rotation of the shoulders. And that's why a lat pull down, leaning back and just pulling straight to your chest, anything that lengthens the spine, anything that just creates space between the ribs and the hips, you'll see an athlete just light up because it feels good. And then it frees up their diaphragm and how they breathe. Like very few strength coaches will deal with breathing. I deal with breathing in session 1 because the expansion of the rib cage is so important. That shows mobility in the thoracic spine. And there's 3 key areas of mobility in the body, and it's starting down at the foot and ankle. It's the foot and ankle, but mostly the ankle. It's the hips, and the hips are really complicated. Like you could spend 45 minutes just giving someone all the motion back in their hips, and then the thoracic spine. So it's ankles, hips, and thoracic spine. Everything else that happens between them, so it's the low back, the knees, the neck, all will fall into line if everything else is moving well. So thoracic spine mobility, hip mobility, ankle mobility will give you better foot function, better glute function, and better upper back function, which is breath and posture. So these things, just you can never get bored of it. Like I never get bored of the simple things, because the same athlete comes in will always show me a little bit of tightness because they're training, or they'll a person who doesn't train but works on a computer will always come in with internal rotation of the shoulders and a little bit of forward head, and so we want to walk it back, get them back into a good skeletal position, find good joint function. And there's a concept called a forced couple relationship. So the shoulder internal rotators need to have external rotators as their couple. Like they should work together. They should be a team. But one side of the body tends to take over and create this perception of safety. Like, oh, you're not strong enough back there, so I'm going to just tighten everything down on the front side. And that's why those first couple miles off the bike can be just so uncomfortable until you get loosened up, and then everything starts moving, and then you feel better. So
listening to you then, is it fair to say that a very common issue for triathletes is that kind of like thoracic spine internal rotation, where like your shoulders and everything just gets hunched forward? That's pretty common.
You get very stuck. You get very stuck and it's very difficult to run from that position. Yeah.
And then it sounds like the other one's like the hips from the like time trial
even
position.
Even on any bicycle, you know, depending whether you're rolling forward, whether you're rolling back in your pelvic position, but an anterior tilted pelvis is not a bad thing as long as you can get out of it. So a pelvic tilt, and women have much better connection to their lumbar spines and their pelvis than men. Like men, they'll lay them down flat on their back, facing up, knees up and feet directly under the knees. So it's kind of like you're going to do a bridge. And then you just put your hand under their back and say, crush my hand. Mm-hmm. So they pull pubic bone and belly button and they, oh, okay. Now they have a connection to the lumbar spine. Now they have a connection to what an anterior tilt versus a neutral pelvis. The only way to get into a posterior tilt would be to grab both knees and just kind of pull the sacrum right off the ground. And it's kind of nice to be able to, you need to have a mobile pelvis. It needs to go in and out of it. And I like to say a lot that nothing good athletic ever happened without an anterior tilt. An anterior tilt is not a bad thing. You just can't get stuck there. Tight hip flexors.
I'm trying to think which one's anterior.
When your hip bones roll forward.
Oh, okay.
And it's a sign of tightness in the hip flexors. So everybody likes to blame the psoas for everything. But there's a little muscle that attaches the psoas to the pelvis called the iliacus. And what if it's not the psoas? What if it's the iliacus and you're so busy bringing negative energy to the psoas? You know, I could go all woo-woo because there's a whole bunch of chat that the psoas holds all the trauma of when you were being yelled at when you were 5. And it's just like, oh my God. But it really is. You just need to keep everything open. But the psoas attaches right at the bottom of the rib cage on the front of the spine, which is very closely related to the diaphragm. So if you do have tight hip flexors because you do work really hard on the bike, is your breathing going to be optimal? Probably not. So it's one of those things that we want a really healthy hip complex. Then we can have really relaxed breathing. Then we can have an expansive rib cage as long as the lats aren't too tight. Like hopefully this is all starting to tie together. It is a cascade of events. And as soon as there's one thing you can see that's tight, you can start to unwind the body a little bit.
Can people who are listening get a taste for this on your Mobility Mondays? Like when you mentioned that in the beginning, I was like, well, I've been missing out on Mobility Mondays. So
yeah, you should do it. Yeah.
Listeners can just
tune in. The cool thing for me and where I feel so lucky is that I really began my whole journey in really traditional education. So my undergraduate is in kinesiology, the science of human movement from the University of Colorado. And then I became a certified strength and conditioning specialist, which is super heavy in the science of it all and all the research-based outcomes. But then as an industry in fitness and movement, we started thinking like, if you wait to everything's proven by research, you're going to be late. So you got to do what makes sense. There's these anecdotal stories, and we started talking about movement. And there's really, we talked a little bit earlier where we were saying so many nice things about Joel Filiol and sharing knowledge and experience. And there's so many smart people when it comes to movement in different places, whether it's structural integration in Rolfing. There's a guy there named Thomas Myers who wrote a book called Anatomy Trains. And Anatomy Trains, Thomas Myers gets introduced to a doctor of physical therapy named Gray Cook, who gets introduced to a strength coach named Mike Boyle. And then all of a sudden they get together and they're like, we're going to help strength and conditioning coaches learn about the body in a much more productive way. And that's when somebody like me, who's on the front line digging the ditches in strength and fitness with athletes and performance, starts learning that the ankles need to move. Like I wasn't taught that in college. And then that the hips need to move, and watch this athlete. And then glutes, like how many articles does Triathlete magazine have how to access the glutes, you know? And it's a topic, it's a thing. And there's a really easy answer for that if there's a muscle that's tight on the front side of the body, you're going to inhibit the back side. So if the hip flexors are tight because you're riding your bike, your glutes are going to underfunction. And then what do you do about it? And that's where strategies and expertise kind of comes into play. But I will always anchor into Gray Cook and Thomas Myers, and my friend Ian, who really, Thomas Myers is all about the fascial system, how muscles don't work in isolation. They work as a unit. Think of the body as a symphony, not as an individual guy with a trumpet. That's one muscle, and one muscle does not work alone. Ian is from New Zealand, Ian O'Dwyer, but he talks about playfulness and just the ability to not be always having to run around a track and be able to run crooked and run curves and run, not just to the right all the time or to the left all the time, So Ian, just the playfulness that your body should have within it. People talk about picking up their grandkids. Well, that's got to be a playful thing. You don't get a chance when they run at you. You just got to grab them and throw them and catch them, and that's the kind of playfulness that makes it really worth it to train in a fully integrated mobility and strength kind of way. So Mobility Monday, I am anchored in what I think. I am always open to learn, but I have learned a lot in the mold, and I love to share as well. And Mobility Monday, people understand the concepts and the philosophies. I'm pretty good at expressing why we're doing what we're doing and why I think you should do it every day, not just Monday. I mean, my goal on Monday is to give people ways of thinking about the way they move, that they should do it on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. So
awesome.
So yeah, Monday mobility is cool.
I would say we'll include a link then so people can, so if you want to get started, you can try Mobility Monday and get some inspiration and then get some kettlebells and then build up from there and keep going. Well, thank you so much for all of the insight, Erin. I hope some people felt inspired and guided to get going on strength training.
I did. Again.
You did? Okay, good.
Again.
Again.
Well, and the thing is, Katie, how old are your children now?
They're about to turn 1 and 4. Their birthdays, they both share a
God.
birthday, July 7th. So we have their birthday party on
They're on the
this
same
weekend.
day?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's incredible. Well,
Yeah.
in training Rinny, and she's got an almost 9-year-old and a 5.5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. And the 2.5-year-old comes to the gym a lot. And so she puts him on her chest like a panda. What do they call those things? Those little Australian bears? A koala bear.
Yeah.
Like a koala him up. And she does all of her hip mobility and strength with a 2.5-year-old. And as he grows, she gets stronger. It's so fun.
Well, and it's funny because when she's not sleeping at night, I'm thinking, I'll just do some squats with her.
Yeah. Totally. It's like a goblet.
Make this time productive.
Perfect, guys. That's the definition of progressive. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, and I'm sure we'll have you back and have more questions. So.
I really appreciate you guys bringing me with you today and your time. So thanks.
Thanks, Erin.